Hey gang, in this Code Club bonus video, Izzy and I are going to show you how to edit the sprites and backdrops for your program. Open up another browser window and log on to Scratch so that you can follow along. Have fun and let's start coding. To add new sprites to your program, you hover over this Choose a Sprite button and you're presented with a little menu of options. The Choose a Sprite option, which looks like a magnifying glass, lets you choose from Scratch's built-in library of sprites. The Paint option, which looks like a paintbrush, lets you edit your own sprite. We'll talk about how to use these tools in a few minutes. The Surprise option, which looks like a bunch of stars, just adds a new random sprite from the Scratch's library of sprites to your program. The Upload option, which looks like an up arrow, lets you choose an image that is on your computer already. So it could be something like a picture of yourself that you have on your computer, or an image you downloaded from the internet. Like for example, I have the Ardmore logo here, and I added that as a sprite to my program. To add a backdrop to your program, you hover over the Choose a Backdrop button, and you get the same menu of options. You can choose a backdrop, paint a backdrop, get a surprise backdrop, or upload a backdrop from your computer. All of these options work the same, except the Choose a Backdrop library is different than the sprite library. When you have a sprite selected, you can go to the Costumes tab and add new costumes to your sprite by going down to the Choose a Costume button. Most of the options in the Choose a Costume button work exactly the same way. You have Choose a Costume, Paint a Costume, Get a Surprise Costume, or Upload a Costume. The last option is to use your camera, and when you click it, it's going to pop up a little box that you can't see in my recording that asks you to allow it to use your camera. If you click Allow there, then it will take a picture with the camera that's on your computer. I just have mine pointed at a wall right now, but you click the Take Photo button at the bottom, and it'll add your photo as a sprite to the program. When you go into Paint a new sprite or backdrop, you'll be taken into what's called the vector editor, which is how you want to edit your sprites and backdrops typically. Editing a picture in vector mode means that instead of storing an actual picture, Scratch stores a mathematical representation of the lines in your picture. Then when it needs to put your picture on the screen, it reads the representation of the lines and recreates the picture every time it needs to. You can also use what's called Bitmap Mode, but that has some limitations. Mainly, when you zoom in and out of a vector image, it can do that without changing the quality. But if you zoom in and out of a bitmap image, it's going to look worse when you zoom in and out. So I'm just going to draw a line on the screen here, and this is in vector mode. And I can zoom in, and it always looks like a nice straight line. If I convert it to a bitmap image, as I zoom in, you can see it's starting to look like have all these jaggy, blocky edges. So that's the difference between bitmap and vector mode. Is bitmap doesn't let you zoom in and out cleanly. It only looks nice at the size that you originally drew it at.
The Paintbrush tool just draws wherever you click and drag your mouse. You can choose whatever color you want using the Fill drop-down. The saturation slider lets you change how light the color looks. If it's at 100%, that is fully the selected color. If it's 50%, it will look lighter, and if it's 0%, it will look white. The brightness slider changes how light or dark the color looks, from black to the actual color. Clicking the red line option means you draw without the color, so you just draw in black. The Eyedropper icon will let you choose another color that's already in your drawing. You can change the size of the paintbrush by increasing or decreasing the number next to the color chooser. The eraser tool lets you remove parts of your picture.
Because what you see in the vector editor is not an actual picture, but a representation based on lines, sometimes the eraser tool can work kind of weirdly. Old versions of Scratch didn't even have an eraser tool for vector mode.
You can still choose colors for the eraser, but they don't do anything. Just like with the paintbrush, you can change the size of the eraser. The Paint Bucket tool lets you fill in any enclosed areas in your image with color. Or change the color of lines drawn with the Paintbrush tool. All of the color picking tools work the same way as for the paintbrush. At the top of the color picker, there are options to choose from different types of gradient, which fill the area by blending one color to another. The options are for a left-right gradient, an up-down gradient, or a circular gradient. The swap button changes the position of the two colors. The text tool lets you add text to your picture. You can choose from several different text styles. The color can be changed just like any other tool. You cannot change the size of text, but we'll look at a way to do that in a few minutes. The line tool lets you draw a straight line from one point to another. You can change the color using the outline color selector. The size can be changed by entering a number into the size box. If you hold down the Shift key when you are drawing a line, it will snap the line to be along a straight line up and down, across, or at a 45-degree angle. The circle and rectangle tool let you draw in shapes on the screen. You can change the inside color by changing the fill color. The outside color is changed with the outline color. You can change the size of the outline. If you change it to 0, it means no outline. If you hold down the Shift key, it will force your shape to be a perfect circle or square instead of an oval or a rectangle. The arrow tool lets you select shapes in your drawing. You just click on the shape you want to select. You don't need to draw a box around it. You can select multiple shapes at the same time by holding the Shift key. Once shapes are selected, you can change the size by dragging circles on the side. This is how you change the size of any text you enter. You can rotate the selection by dragging the anchor icon. If you hold down the Shift key while dragging an anchor, it will snap you to predefined angles. You can change the fill or outline colors and the size of the shape outline for all the shapes you have selected. Copy and paste allows you to duplicate the selected shapes. If you don't have anything selected, it will duplicate everything. Delete deletes the selected shapes. Again, it will delete everything if you aren't careful. Flip horizontal will flip the selection left and right. Flip vertical will flip it up and down. Both of these will flip the whole image if nothing is selected.
If you have multiple things selected, you can use the Group tool to group them together. This makes it easier to do things like resize or rotate the entire group at one time. Then you can use the Ungroup tool, and this breaks them back apart. Every shape in the vector editor has a layer. This tells where it is in comparison to other objects. Objects behind another object can't be seen, and objects in front of them can be seen over behind objects. The forward and backward buttons move an object forward or back one layer. The front and back buttons will move the object all the way to the front or all the way to the back. If you have multiple objects that you group together with the Group tool, in that same group box, they'll be in the same layers relative to one another. So if this was in layer 1 and this was in layer 2, inside the group they're still layer 1 and layer 2. But in comparison to other objects not in that group, they move forward and backward together.
The Reshape tool lets you change the shape of anything you have on the screen. When you select a point, you can click the Delete button to remove it from the shape. If you select a point and it is curved, it will add a line next to the point that allows you to change the shape of the curve. You can click the curved button to make the two lines surrounding the point curved, or the pointed button to make the two lines straight. At the bottom of the screen, the zoom button allows you to zoom in to do more precise editing, and then zoom back out. The equal sign allows you to zoom into normal size. Converting to bitmap will change your vector image into a bitmap. This isn't recommended because there is no turning back. At the top of the screen, you can change the name of your costume or backdrop, and you have the undo and reboot and redo buttons.
If you convert to a bitmap, the big differences in the bitmap editor are the fill tool can actually fill the entire background, which can't happen in vector mode. When you want to select parts of your bitmap picture, you just draw a box around the part you want to select. You can't select individual parts of the image like you can with a vector. Some of the other tools work a little bit differently too. For example, the square and the circle don't have an option to put an outline around when you're drawing them, but mostly they work the same way. Bitmaps also don't have the concept of layers, since when you draw, everything just winds up on top of each other, and that's where it stays in the picture. Converting a bitmap into a vector doesn't actually change it into the line representation. It basically just makes it like the background drawing of the vector. That means when you zoom in and out, it is going to get those jagged lines on it. A popular reason people do convert bitmap to vector is if they want a gradient background on their vector image. They'll make the gradient in bitmap mode and then convert it to vector mode. Alright, that's it for this special image editing edition of Code Club. We hope you enjoyed it. Now go out and do some coding on your own. Have fun, and we'll see you next time.